This is not something easy to make, but I've come to grips with it and realized, you know what, it happened. And well, the world has lost a legend. The world lost arguably the greatest, if not the king of anime and manga. That's Akira Toriyama. Now, why I say that is because his impact is felt throughout the entire world. You can ask fans of anime and manga, you can ask fans of video games, you can even ask non fans, and they will know just from looking at one of his animations or one of his drawings, you can tell where that is from and what era it's from because he is so universally recognized and universally loved. From a 3-year old to your 90-year-old grandma, everybody knows his work. He spawned off from legendary series of Dr. Slump, the Dragon Ball franchise, and even moved into video games with the Dragon Quest games and even Chrono Trigger. His impact was felt through it all. And it wasn't just that he created these things and just people loved these things because it was these things that, no, there was a connection that he knew that he could make with his audience that will forever last and be immortalized. And he knew just that with the connection of just those few millions of people watching or playing or reading, what it would do for them. Like he went beyond the medium. He went in like almost like he came to your home and he was there with you, guiding you, telling you. This is how deep his work has become. And for someone like me who's been truly impacted by this, I will now share to you my story with Akira Toriyama and why this is so hard on me and why he is very important to me, my livelihood, and who I am today. Now, growing up as a 90s kid, obviously, we know anime was huge in the 90s. It was blowing up. It was becoming the big thing in the West. And we should really gratefully thank none other than Sensei Akira Toriyama. Because he brought the Dragon Ball franchise to the West and popularized anime to the Western world. Prior to that, yes, we've had things like Astro Boy. Yes, we've had Doraemon and Hello Kitty, but they were just very minuscule to the grand scheme of what Dragon Ball did for the Western audience and anime. And even looking to Dragon Quest and even looking at Chrono Trigger, if you weren't a fan of games like Final Fantasy and those types of role playing games, you were definitely a big fan of Dragon Quest because that style he brought that style of RPG to the Western world where it's more easier to understand, easier to play. He made it popular. He made it out in the West. Now, why is this so important to me? Like millions of others, they grew up with certain things of Akira Toriyama and they have a connection to that thing. For me, that is the Dragon Ball franchise. That's right. From the age of 5, when it first aired here in Canada, yes, I'm going to say this. In Canada, at the age of 5, was when I was first introduced to Dragon Ball Z. Now, I don't know how it was in the US or how it was in Europe, but here in Canada, we kind of got Dragon Ball Z a little late. We got it around when was it? around 97, late 97, I believe, or like 98, somewhere around there. We got Dragon Ball Z. And then as time progressed, we got Dragon Ball and then Dragon Ball GT. But now with Dragon Ball, yeah, we never in Canada. It never really finished. They just abruptly stopped it. Went to Z, and then we got to. But I don't know how it was. So that's where I'm saying like we first got it. So anyway, so when we got Dragon Ball Z, I was like, "What is this?" I was watching, enjoying it, and throughout the times of watching it, I grew more and more and more attached to this franchise, almost like as it was like as if it was a part of me. It was like it essentially became my identity, essentially, if you will. That's what it become. Like I was like I had to watch it no matter what. Like when it first aired here in Canada, it was on YTV because in Canada, YTV had a deal with a few of the anime studios so they could air their stuff on YTV. This was before we had Crunchyroll, Toonami, and all these things. There was localized networks that would work deals out. So it would be on at right after school at 4 o'clock. We'd see the replay. 4:30 we would see the new episode. So we get two episodes. Now later on, after around the Cell Saga was when it got moved over to night. Like I I had to beg and plead, like beg my parents to let me stay up because when I was a young kid, my bedtime was 9 o'clock, and guess what time they decided to move Dragon Ball Z to 9 o'clock? Why? Because at that time, YTV made a deal with these anime studios where they had a specific time slot where it would be from 8 p.m. to 1 a.m. would just be anime, just straight up anime, and it would be on Friday nights. It would, yeah, Friday nights would be the anime night, and I would beg and plead. There, like Dragon Ball Z, yes, would have replays if you missed it, but to me, I had to beg and stay up just to watch it. And my parents actually finally they agreed because they realized how important it was to me, Dragon Ball Z. Like obviously as a kid they look at it, oh, it's just a show, but then as I know, like my dad already knew from the get-go. My mom had to figure it out from like seeing me watch it and see how invested I got into it, where it's like she realized, you know what, this is important. This is something you really, you know what, just stay up, watch it, then go to bed. So I would watch Dragon Ball Z once they moved over, and even like in school, me and my friends, we had like a group of us, like three or four of us, would get together and we would actually LARP. For anyone who doesn't know, live action role playing of Dragon Ball Z, and we would pick our characters. We would reenact the episode we saw, like literally from start to finish during recess and lunch, because in Canada, for anyone watching outside of North America, would this is how our school system worked. We had our classes. We had a 10-minute recess. Then we had lunch, which we had a 10-minute lunch, and then they gave us a 15-minute recess for lunch. And then after our last class, they would give us five. Before our last class, they'd give us 5 minutes and then go. This is elementary school, by the way. In high school, there was none of that. It was just a 30-minute lunch, and that's it. So during those two, sometimes we'd have to push it to three. We would do the whole episode, and some people would look at us. Some of the other kids would look at us, but you guys are weird, and we didn't care. We pretended like crazy, like we were like screaming on the top of our lungs, thinking we would be Super Saiyans. We would believe we became Saiyans. I even remember the episode when Gohan taught Videl how to fly and how to harness her energy. I'll say this, I personally thought that was real, and I sat there doing everything Gohan told Videl, and I tried to learn to fly. I even told my friends, yo, we got to try this, we got to do this. I was trying hard. It took me a while to realize, you know what, this isn't real. It's never going to happen. Because even my mom was like, what are you doing? Why? Blah, blah. Anyway, so But the big thing about this whole importance of Dragon Ball Z isn't just because it brought happiness to my childhood. When during the PS2 era, when I was much, much, much more heavily into gaming, it was like every time a new Dragon Ball Z game would come out, day of, first day, I'm there right after school. I pick it up and I would try to get the collector's edition if there was one, or like a special edition if there was one. If there wasn't, I just get the game and I go home. And at this time, I was, because of weekends, I'd be at my dad's and games would come out Friday. So I would be out, and thank God, because you guys know, some of you know I love wrestling. So at this time, SmackDown was on Thursdays. So I was able to, Friday, day of, I play the game and I'd stay up. My dad would come to me and be like, it's 12 a.m. You should go to bed now. I know there's no school, but you need to go sleep. You need sleep. And I'm like, no, no, no. I need to finish the game. I would be up like 2, 3, 4 a.m. playing. Not finished, but playing. Because what I would do is I'd come home, I'd eat my food, I would watch some of the after school cartoons, and then around 5, 6 o'clock, put in the game all the way through. There was even one time where one of my friends I don't know how he did it, but he got the game before me. And this is not like now where, you see like YouTubers today where, oh, look, I got a reviewer copy. I'm immediate. No, no, this was way back in the days before that. So he told me, oh, if you just play this game for this long, certain amount of hours, you can actually unlock majority, 90% of the characters. So I stayed up, what is it? I would say till like, I didn't even sleep. I literally did not sleep from 6 p.m. when I put the game in. 6 a.m. my dad wakes up. He goes, you're still here? I go, yes, I'm playing it. He goes back to bed. He wakes up at 9. You're still here. Makes me breakfast. I'm still playing this game. I did not stop because I knew I was going to get there. And I did. I enjoyed it. But that's besides that. What really Dragon Ball Z really taught to a lot of people, not just me, is taught about perseverance. It taught you about never giving up and always going after what you want no matter what. And that's literally the whole message that Akira Toriyama always puts into every single one of his work. And it really expanded more so in the Dragon Ball franchise because of how big it's become. Like if you look closely at Goku, no matter what, he never gave up on training, and no matter how tough the enemies were, no matter how tough the villains were, he said there is a way, there is a will, it will be done. Doesn't matter if it's me that has to get it done, if it's Gohan, if it's Vegeta or Piccolo, I don't care. There is a will, there is a way, and I'm not giving up. I fell down today. I'm going to train harder so that tomorrow I can come back and finally win. And it taught a whole generation like to never give up. And to put this into connection with why it's connected to me, like I even remember like before we go into like when GT came out, it was right around because it would air at 8 o'clock and I would be in Farsi class because my dad made me take a Farsi class and stuff. So I would beg and plead. I'd tell him, please, please, class is done at 7:30. Please be waiting behind, because the rules were back in those days was like, your parents had to be behind the door waiting for you. So I was like, please be here for 7:30 so we can be home, because from there to home was like 5-minute drive, if maybe not even 3 minutes. Right? So I'd beg and be here 7:30. So I'd go, so I can go home right away. I go, I change, I wash my hands, my face, I grab my food, sit down, turn it on. With 5-10 minutes remaining, I turn on the TV, I'm good. So I begged him. So I would, anyway, but what Dragon Ball Z and Akira Toriyama did for me and my life, what it did, what you see that I'm doing here today is because of him. Because of the creation of Dragon Ball, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. My life wouldn't be where it is if it wasn't for him. The plans, my futures, my goals, everything is because of him. Like yes, there's other parts of me that you guys know that affected, but this is the main thing. Like, if it wasn't for watching Dragon Ball Z as a child and getting into it and immersed into that, I would have never discovered anime because, yes, while Pokemon, yes, was a big deal, I never looked at that as an anime because, again, in those days they treated it as a cartoon. It wasn't until later where you realized, oh, it's actually Japanese, but it's more translated in the Western style. Got it. Things like Sailor Moon I watched, but it didn't really hit me. Beyblade. There was other things, but Dragon Ball Z was really what hit me and got me to really love anime and really immerse myself into Japanese culture and lifestyle. And if it wasn't for Dragon Ball Z, I wouldn't be. I'll admit this. You see the games behind me. This isn't just it. I've got another shelf full of games here. I've got in my living room some games. I've got the bottom row here. I've got at my mom's. I've got a ton of 360 games. I've got a lot of gaming stuff, and I equate that to, yes, I'm a gamer. Yes, before Dragon Ball Z games, I was buying games, but I equate it to the Dragon Ball Z where it was the first love I found for video games, where it's like, I have to get it day one. I have to get it first day, no matter what the case is. I have to be there, get this version, do this, do this with that, make sure I do this, make sure this, the first series of games, I have to sit here and on 100% it, and it really made me like, okay, became like I realized, I'm actually collecting these things, which then pushed me into, as you could see on the top here, trying to get a complete wrestling set is because I started it with the Dragon Ball Z set, and it's the first thing that actually showed me in the world of Japanese games, because the first thing I ever had was a Japanese Dragon Ball Z game, which I didn't even know was Japanese till I went into one of our bigger stores here in Canada, in Toronto, is ANC Games, and I saw a lot of Japanese games, and then I saw one, and I'm like, it's familiar. They explained to me, and go, oh, I have that, because it was like Dragon Ball Z immersed me into Japanese culture. It got me to learn about the lifestyle and cultures of Japan. It made me start reselling in my business now. I sell Japanese games, which is a lot of it. I sell anime stuff, which is a lot of it. I sell Japanese movies. Well, my dad does, but he sells it. I sell it for him on behalf. He consigns with me, makes it. But I have these things because of Dragon Ball Z, because of Akira Toriyama, every time I put in Dragon Ball Z just to watch and binge, it just takes me back to being 5 years old again, 6 years old, 7, 8, all the way up to now. It takes me back. It just reminds me of those days where you know. I'm sorry that I'm like this right now. It's just it's very hard to even comprehend that it happened, and every time I think about it and think my what it did with childhood, and it think about what happened, like every like like even my future plans, which I have revolve is thanks in part to Dragon Ball Z. Like, the reason, this is literally it. My livelihood is thanks in part to Akira Toriyama and the Dragon Ball franchise. Really, I have to really give him my props and my thanks, because who knows, if he never created it, I would have been a completely different person, and I wouldn't have wanted any other way than it is right now. And the love I have for everything Japan, everything Japanese, and anime, manga, video game, the passion, not just love, the passion that burned inside me is all thanks to Sensei Akira Toriyama. Thank you for all the years. Thank you for giving us such wonderful franchises. Thank you for introducing not just me, but a whole generation of people to anime and Japanese culture. I highly, 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 highly thank you. May you rest in peace and may your legacy live on for eternity.